Hello, and welcome to Hope for the Family, a podcast from the Magdalen House, a recovery community for alcoholism. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization based in Dallas, Texas, and known affectionately by many as Maggie's. Every first and third Wednesday, we bring you a new release from one of our 3 podcast series. In our Hope for the Family series, recovered family members from our community share how they've been able to find peace and freedom as the loved ones of alcoholics. With your host, me, Laurie Evans, loved one of an alcoholic and co-founder of Family Support at the Magdalen House. For more information about our family support group, including weekly meetings, please visit magdalenhouse.org/family. We're so glad you're here, and thank you for listening. Welcome to Hope for the Family. This is Laurie Evans, and I'm the host of the podcast, and we are very happy to have our guest today, Sloane Dix. She is the daughter of a recovered alcoholic and the best friend of a recovered alcoholic, both of whom are very active in the Magdalen House. So welcome, Sloane.
Thanks. Hi.
We're glad you're here. Do you want to tell us just a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Sure. I was born and raised in Dallas. I have 3 kids, a husband. We live in Lakewood. Everyone's in the Lakewood schools. And I'm really familiar with the Magdalen House through both my mom and my very best friend in the world that's like a sister, Lacey. So I am happy to be here and happy to share my story. And yeah.
We're glad you're here. So in regards to the alcoholics in your life, and I know you've had a few and you've been through a lot, with them. Was there a time that any of your loved ones tried to get sober on their own without a program? And if so, what was that experience like as a family member?
How honest can I be?
Very.
When we were in probably our mid or late 20s, Lacey and I had kind of gotten over the party scene. We were unclear as to where we were in our lives and what we were wanting, and she actually did try without any sort of treatment facility or program or steps to get kind of sober. We called it California sober. At the time, I was proud of her. It seemed like changes were being made, and I don't know, she seemed committed to something different than, what she had been doing. And then her sister died, and I got pregnant. And we had been living together and supporting each other. And so as I'm pregnant, it's easy for me not to drink because you can't.
Right.
And, Lacey was still doing her California sober. And then it was a year later after I had my baby that Lacey's sister died. I had a baby. Gosh, emotions are weird. You think you're good, and then they come out of nowhere. I had Georgie was probably 7 or 8 months old, and Lacey's sister passed away due to alcohol. And she was 26. It was a really big shock. Lacey would spend the night in our tiny 1,200 square foot house, sleep in the bed with me. My husband would sleep on the couch, and she started drinking again, doing all the things, which I get, but it became clear at a certain point that if something didn't change in her life, she was going to die, or it was just spiraling out of control. So it's funny, we talked about it because it was so long ago, I couldn't remember the story. And she said, "Sloane, you're the one that called the treatment facility for me." And I don't even remember that. But she said, "I said they sounded nice." And so she ended up going into a 30-day program, and she came back, and I remember picking her up at the airport, and she was smoking a cigarette outside. And she got in the car, and at that point we were still young and talking about, being sober and not drinking. It was still just not something I understood. And Lacey stayed sober for about 2 years. And then in 2014, I can't really remember what the trigger was, but I think there's some confusion around addiction, that like someone seems okay, so they can probably drink again. And I mean, I don't even think we were like, don't do it. I think we thought maybe Lacey.
You just didn't understand
We
the
didn't
disease.
understand the disease. We didn't. But the second time, as she relapsed, which we didn't even really see as a relapse because we thought maybe this was just a different phase of Lacey's life.
She's better now. She went to the hospital.
Yeah,
and now
she got her head straight.
Yeah.
She's good. And really quickly, I mean, it was fast. She knew, someone named Lisa Kroenke on a mission trip. Yeah. They met each other for the first time. Lacey had gotten very inebriated at my second baby's sip and see. So this was in, June of 2014. The next day she had to get on a bus and go on this mission trip with all these kids. And Lisa could tell she was really hungover. And she said, "You're not sober." She said, "You're not in recovery and you need help." And that's when Lacey got really involved with the Magdalen House, like so involved. I think was here multiple times a day. I mean, she was basically living here. And that is the point that I realized the difference between sobriety and recovery. And I truly started to understand what addiction was. And, it changed her life. It changed my life. And later down the road, I got to introduce my mom to the Magdalen House because of Lacey. And that changed our entire family's life. So I can't even remember the question, but matter. I hope I answered it.
You did. You did. That's greatness. And yeah, so Lacey's so involved with the Magdalen House, and so is your mom for that matter. And it's interesting to me how that was put into your life, and then your mom needed help, and you were able to do that. So how was that experience different? Okay, then you just answered that. How was your experience different than when you have seen when your loved one became involved with the Magdalen House? It made a complete difference. And then she also went through the steps and everything with Lisa.
Right. Did this, and at that point, you know what? That's not true. Not at that point. Oh, maybe at that point I started reading the big book, and realized maybe everyone should be working the steps. Yeah. But it was, as she got so involved with the Magdalen House, I watched a person that was white-knuckling through life in misery transform into someone that was actually living and in joy and in happiness.
Because God removed her obsession. Her higher power.
Her higher power. And you see this freedom that starts to happen. And it's not overnight. I'm not going to say that it was overnight. I know that it's a struggle, and it was a struggle at the beginning, but it happens. It's real. The steps are real. The Magdalen House is real. The higher power is real. So, yeah, it was a giant difference.
That's amazing. I love what you said about once you started reading the book, you realized that maybe everybody should go through the steps. So have you been able to seek help as a family member and start your own recovery process?
I did start. I started with you. Am I allowed to say that?
That was a trick question.
I did. And I remember we got to step 4, and I struggled with it because it wasn't because I didn't want to do it. I am so type A, I wanted to do it perfectly and right, and I felt like I wasn't doing that.
It's not something you have to do. You're not going to die from alcoholism.
Right. But it does bring something different into your life. You see what making amends can do. You see what dealing with things that you maybe haven't thought about enough before, and dealing with that, you see that it just starts to, lift something. It's good. It's great. It's beautiful. And even not working all the steps, I've obviously read all of the steps, and I don't know. It's great. And I see how I used to think AA and the steps were a bunch of like voodoo witchcraft.
Cult.
Right.
Cult,
right.
Yeah.
And then, watching my mom, watching Lacey, watching them highlight their books over and over and over, and going to, family night when they get their chips for various months, years, whatever it may be. This is Lacey's, it'll be 10 years this year.
That's amazing.
And they read straight out of the big book. And you just see that is their Bible, and it's
a guide for living.
It's a guide for living.
Everybody should read it. It's
exactly
the best book I've ever read.
Yeah, so I get it now. It makes more sense.
Yeah. Are you a loved one of an alcoholic? Our family support group serves as a community for friends, loved ones, and family members of alcoholics to learn about alcoholism, understand how to help an alcoholic, and experience an improved quality of life, regardless of the alcoholic's recovery. We have weekly support meetings that meet virtually and in person, and all friends and family are welcome, even if your loved one has not been through our programs. To find out more about our family support group, visit magdalenhouse.org/family. So keep talking a little bit about your family dynamic now. And I know Lacey's a big part of your family. And then, you've got your mom and your dad and your sisters. What does a family get together look like now for you guys?
I mean, it's still the exact same. It's funny when we talk about both Lacey and my mom. We've chaired the Magdalen House event, the Tennis 105 at Lakewood.
Yeah.
And like for my mom, for example, she's still the exact same person. She's still on the dance floor dancing like a weirdo, but without alcohol, she's more fun.
Yeah.
And
because it comes from the heart.
And Lacey is hilarious. She will, most of her friends are kind of still degenerates, myself included.
Yeah.
And she'll stay up late with us. She will, we love musical theater. We will sing until into the wee, the dynamic in that sense, the get-togethers, the family vacations, it's like we are all still the same. They just don't drink anymore, and they're a lot happier, and they're more fun to be around, and there's not tears, and there's not boundaries that have to be placed, and there's not screaming fights, and there's not wine being poured down the sink, and and that's a gift that we got from the Magdalen House. Because Lacey went to a $1 billion rehab facility, and that didn't do it.
No.
It was Maggie's.
Yeah, I know.
And, and again, I think it's important for people to hear it's not overnight. It is a transformation, but it happens, and it happens for so many women here. So, we're good. And, Lacey's the godmother to my oldest, Georgie. I'm the godmother to her son with her wife, Maggie. Yeah, Watson. And I don't know. It's a beautiful family dynamic.
That is amazing. And what I've learned, because my wife is, just celebrated 11 years sober. And what I learned, one of the things that I learned by having a front row seat to all of this, and I, like I said, I got to see God remove her obsession for alcohol, but it turns out to not really be about alcohol. Like, alcohol was just like the what they were doing to make themselves feel better.
Right.
It's more like a symptom.
Right.
And we, now we don't even focus on alcohol. Now it's about, are you living in 10, 11, and 12? Are you doing the things that you're supposed to be doing to keep up your program? And I see Lacey doing that, and I see your mom doing that, as well as, of course, my wife. But
right.
It's an amazing thing to watch.
Yeah, we don't talk about alcohol anymore. It's a non-issue. And, I mean, you know what I mean. And, the thing for Lacey, when she found the Magdalen House, I didn't understand it was a disease, like I said. And I remember we were at a wedding in Austin, and she wasn't drinking. And I am the asshole that was like, are you sure you can't drink?
Yeah, you didn't know, though.
And, she got really upset. She was like, I'm an alcoholic. And I felt awful. And then, I think probably a year later she did start drinking again. But something that the Magdalen House and Lacey and my mom have given me, when I say alcohol is a non-issue, what I mean is compared to, almost 10 years ago when I picked Lacey up at the airport and was like, what are we going to tell people? Even though I knew it was great, but I didn't get it fully. And now I scream it from the rooftops.
Sure, yeah.
I am so proud of them. And it is not shameful. It is not something to be hidden. It is not taboo. And I think one of the greatest gifts that the Magdalen House has given us is that, awareness is key. And it's cool to be in recovery. And it's when you see women who are truly living in recovery, how could you not tell everyone about that? Yeah. So I'm grateful for the gift of knowledge that the Magdalen House has given me.
Yeah, because we always talk about like the stigma surrounding alcoholism, and it is a disease, and it's not something that people build a meal train for. When you find out someone's an alcoholic, when they have cancer, you're like, oh, let's put together meals and let's do a fundraiser. But that's the beauty of people like Lisa, my wife, and Lacey, and and your mom. I mean, they are living, walking proof that sobriety is cool. And I love seeing them. I love seeing your mom dance and doing her cheers.
Her pencil sharpener dance.
Yeah, she's got a lot of moves.
And I think it helps other people see my mom, Lacey, and then their family who aren't in recovery but by proxy understand it, talk about it and talk about it loudly. And it's so people are then like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone, whether it's a family member or someone going through it. Maybe, and I'm so happy that I now am, it's a non-issue in the sense that I've got zero issue talking about it.
Yeah. And that is one of the greatest things. That's the beauty of the Magdalen House, that the recovered women keep coming back and helping those that are in need. Right, and that's what they see. They're like, oh, that is my story, and that's me. That's me. Maybe they can help me. And before, they might not have got that out someplace.
And here we have the Magdalen House that's free for 2 weeks, and then it's free to come back for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And we are just about to replicate it with a men's program that's going to open next week.
I think that's so awesome. I think the addicted male community can benefit from that so greatly.
Yeah, it's really great to be able to talk about that in family support now, because we have the people that come to family support come from everywhere. A lot of people just it's a search engine that gets them there. They're like, right. Oh, I just searched family support and I got here. I'm in Oklahoma, or whatever it is. And a lot of them have men in their life and they don't have a solution, and right. I'd help them as much as I help the family as much as I can.
Right.
But it's great now to be able to offer a solution
for the men too. Yeah, you helped us so much. We came to family support when my mom was in the house. And birthday night's my favorite.
Well, yeah, because your mom is the cheerleader.
And then one night, I can't remember what chip it was for my mom, but I brought my now 12-year-old. And, birthday night, it's a free-for-all. You can say whatever you want. And Georgie whispered in my ear, do they know there's children here? Because these women are so excited.
Yeah, they're just letting it all hang out.
Letting it all hang out. Whatever it is. And it is a beautiful celebration.
That's right. Okay, so best friend and a daughter of an alcoholic. Have you had any struggles in your relationship? Either one that you've seen and have those healed or changed as the recovery goes on? Because like you said, it's not overnight.
Right. I would say it was different with my mom and Lacey. My mom's my mom, and Lacey was my best friend. And I can honestly say, truly, I was never angry at Lacey when she was an alcoholic. I was sad and I wanted better for her. But I wasn't angry, I think, and she's apologized for things, and I'm like, you don't have to. I love you, I'm glad that you're happy and free and living this life of, true bliss with a wife and a baby and all of it. And, I think at certain times I would have to put up boundaries. Like, I can't be around this, especially after I had a baby. But of course it's different. Of course it's healed. And we speak so openly now, so truthfully, so honestly with each other. There's nothing hidden anymore between us. And it's incredible. And she is, top 3 easily, maybe number 1, don't tell my sisters. the closest human being that I am to on this planet, and it is through her recovery that
You
was
got
possible.
there.
Yes, because she teaches me things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my mom, it was different. There were a lot of struggles. A lot. And it happened quickly, too. I don't remember my mom drinking when we were growing up. I really don't think she did.
I've heard her story. She said she didn't.
And it started when I was in college. And when you find your mom smoking a cigarette in the bushes, you're like, she's awesome. And I'm like, where's this person been? And then it's not funny because, come however many years later, I won't go to Bible study at her house anymore because she can't not drink wine beforehand, And it got to the point that it was just so bad. I could tell you a million stories. And because it was my mom, of course I was angry because I felt she just left us,
Yeah.
She just wasn't around anymore.
She's drinking.
And it wasn't even that she was not present, like sitting at the bar all day long. It was that she wasn't present as herself.
Gotcha.
And she was annoying. And she was the worst. And everyone was fighting. And that struggle was really real. And I remember the first time, we did all the things. We said, we're not going to be around you anymore if you keep drinking. But then the kids miss her. Mm-hmm. And then it was, it was always cause and effect. If you keep doing this, then here's your punishment. And, clearly that didn't work. And I remember the first night we went to First Step at PPG. Mm-hmm. And is it First Step?
It's
I can't think of it either. But Ben Parkey led it, and that was the first time everything he said about disease, addiction, the patterns, the denial,
Right, I was there with y'all.
Yes,
I remember.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was me, my dad, and my 3 sisters. We'd gotten in a huge fight before, and that was also terrible. And I was like, oh my gosh, my mom really, because at that point you're still like, is she not? We've watched her get hurt herself, and you're still like,
is she?
Is she?
Oh, I did the same thing because you don't want to admit it.
Which is stupid. Why not?
Because you don't want it. It's the stigma that the society puts on it.
Exactly.
So you're like, well, maybe not.
Maybe she can get around this.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a workaround.
Yeah, a workaround.
And I left that meeting and I was like, oh man, she's an alcoholic. And I think we tried something again, didn't work. And then at some point something happened over a spring break. It was my family down in Florida with my mom and dad. And we came home, and 2 days later, she checked herself into the Magdalen House.
That is amazing.
And since then, and since she didn't want to be there, she didn't want to stay, but she did. And we would go and see her every day because it was pre-COVID, so we would come and visit her at the house, and she stayed, and she did it, and she loved it, and she came out a very, very, very different, same but in recovery. And you've heard me say this a million times. We used to not see my mom because she was drinking, but we don't see my mom anymore because she's always here.
She's always here. Well, maybe you can see her today.
I know. I'll go check in the house, or working with other women, or they're at my parents' house, and she has given herself to the program, to the steps, to other women that are experiencing what she did.
It's a true surrender.
It truly is.
That's amazing. And I've heard both of their stories, Lacey and your mom. And one of my favorite part of Lacey's story is where she would go out and have drinks with you guys, and she'd write a number on her hand that she wanted, or she'd write stop on her hand. That's what it was. She'd write stop.
To test herself.
Yeah.
I don't think it ever works.
No. And then the best part is when she went to rehab the first time, mm-hmm. she thought that they were going to teach her how to drink like a lady.
like a cotillion for drinking.
Yeah.
Just rein it in.
And I just think that is hilarious to me.
And
I love hearing their stories. So
they are good stories. They are stories of redemption, and we are living in the goodness of it right now.
I'm glad you recognize that and you're grateful for it.
I am. I'm very grateful for it.
All right. So if someone besides your best friend and your mom, were considering coming to the Magdalen House to get help, what would you share with them?
This comes up because people ask me a lot, and honestly, I share my mom and Lacey's story.
Yeah.
And I say, go try your fancy rehab, but this is available to you down the street And free is a great selling point. But the other side of the Magdalen House, and let's be honest, it doesn't happen for everyone the first time. I've heard women say they've been in here 5 times.
Yeah.
But you see the other sides of the story. I tell people that. I say, listen, I've seen it, I've witnessed it. And I talk about the steps too. When people say, I don't know, I have this friend, this sister, this so-and-so that went to, this facility. And I always say, do they work the program? Do they have a sponsor? I think sponsors are so important.
Mm-hmm. They're the ones that connect you with your higher power.
And, so I see it through the eyes of what I can compare it to from Fancy Schmancy in the Magdalen House, which now is actually pretty fancy schmancy inside.
It's got a little bit of sparkle to it.
Yeah, it does. It does. And, I try to explain the stories that I've seen.
I love that. Yeah. And I so love that you guys are the chair people of the tennis fundraiser that we do. And I love how much you're involved. We'd like to get you even more involved with your passion, but I know you're busy with all your raising your kids. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
It was great to see you.
I love this house more than anything in the world. Good to see you.
Thank you, Sloan.
This has been Hope for the Family, hosted by Lori Evans and brought to you by the Magdalen House. I am Bryn Hansen, host of our Recovered Interviews with Alcoholics podcast series. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Tune in every first and third Wednesday for a new release from one of our 3 podcast series. To learn more about the Magdalen House and the services we offer, visit magdalenhouse.org or follow us on your favorite social media channels by searching for the Magdalen House.